How do you know you are free? As a child, I was probably more aware than my contemporaries of things like the ongoing Cold War, the threat of communist spread, and the value of liberty. Perhaps it was because I was raised to be very patriotic, my family having a long and distinguished history of military service. Maybe I was picking up ideas and information from conversations my father, a career soldier, had with others. Growing up around military bases and that way of life would undoubtedly have had some influence on me. And I am certain the time living in or visiting other countries was educational. For example, I was able to visit East Germany and East Berlin a number of times when they were under Soviet Union control. Before I had even reached my teen years, I had already begun to consider the different governments found around the world. I pondered the impact each might have on its citizens. I examined the societies and lifestyles of people in different nations. This all led me to explore many questions about different nations, their governments, and the happiness of their citizens. These many observations and questions eventually brought me to one grand question, a question so big I knew I must learn the answer, for I felt it would reveal a truth so profound it would have life-changing impact for any who understood it. How does someone know if they are free or not? I contemplated this question for years. I approached it from different angles, closely examining possible answers. Is the knowledge of liberty a mental acquisition? Does one know one's possession of liberty, or to what degree that liberty exists? By observation of their circumstances and comparison of those circumstances with those of others? The problem I found with approaching the question from a scientific angle is that it provided no solid answer while raising more questions. For example, what if someone is born somewhere run by a totalitarian government for several generations, or where there has always been rule by an oppressive regime? It is as it has been and always shall be, may be the attitude of society. And often in such circumstances, the power that rules may be restricting outside information by which one might compare their circumstances and be able to make a determination of what is liberty. This would be especially true for someone born into a third world nation where the means of receiving information about the rest of the world may not exist. I contemplated the question from a psychological angle. Are people free when they feel free? Does someone wake in the morning, stretch, take in a deep breath, and smile while saying, "Ah, freedom"? The problems with answering my question from this angle are several. Most notably, emotions cannot be trusted as a basis for fact. They are too varied and too easily swayed. As far as the mind goes, it is relative to the individual. There have been those of strong will who, while imprisoned and enduring great hardship, were able to escape in their mind. They were able to not only find peace, but to actually feel a sense of freedom. Then there are those who, living in not only absolute freedom, but even an opulent lifestyle, feel imprisoned in their mind. This could have been due to illness, bad choices, or a toxic relationship. These individuals have often seen emotional decline to the point of suicide. After years of examining the question from different angles, I arrived at the conclusion that there is an intrinsic sense within mankind of whether they are free or slave, and an inherent need to be free. It is part of who we are, and we know the difference. It is not explainable physiologically. It is within our very spirit. Now I was getting somewhere. To understand whether people know they are free or not, how they can sense how much freedom they possess, and why they choose to remain a slave or pursue freedom, can all be answered when examined from the spiritual angle. Ultimately, freedom, even in the physical world, is a spiritual matter. I am sure many will ask how I arrived at this conclusion, and I am thankful for those who would ask, rather than immediately debate my assertion, for this gives me hope there are some who may still be reached by truth. Liberty and man's understanding of what that is a spiritual matter for three reasons. First, man was created in the image of God. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Genesis 1:27. Because man was created in the image of God, he is to be a free entity. This is evidenced by two things. One, the only requirement given to man was to take care of the earth. Two, the only restriction placed on man was to abstain from eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Both of these were, if adhered to, actually beneficial to man. Second, in this life, man always has the Spirit of God available to him. Psalm 139, 7 through 12 tells us there is no place in this life, or even in the grave, where the Spirit of God is not present. Because the Spirit of God is always present and working, we can know certain things. The founding fathers of the United States understood this. That is why the Declaration of Independence states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Third, and this reason really completes the second, now the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. 2 Corinthians 3:17. That statement is pretty plain, isn't it? Go ahead, say it. You don't really believe the Bible. Well, let me tell you, Satan does. But don't take my word for it. Examine history and let Satan prove it to you. Every time freedom is stolen from a people, one of the first and most heavily attacked points is people's faith in God. Prayer, religious gathering, the Bible, and even the mentioning of God's name is outlawed. Why? Because the Spirit of God gives liberty. The communion of the Holy Spirit with the spirit of man gives enlightenment. A totalitarian government needs its subjects to only know truth as it proclaims it, and to have faith in nothing but the system. Time and again we have seen it. Monuments to a people's history are torn down that there should be no reminder of their past. Tyranny cannot afford men to remember or be encouraged to emulate the heroes of their past. Education is changed to indoctrinate the young to believe what serves the authoritarian. Knowledge is only necessary insofar as it serves the state. Even the very meanings of words and phrases are changed until the people are reduced to sheep, speaking only the approved tongue. They are now merely mindless servants of the ruling elites. People are divided by race, class, and compliance. Yes, compliance. Dare I say it? A person can be viewed as an outsider or even less than human for their unwillingness to accept a hastily produced vaccine. All of this is to take people's eyes off what the state is doing, while putting them at odds with each other. After all, a house divided against itself cannot stand. Does any of this sound familiar? It should. It's happening right here in the good old US of A. Our history is being torn down or retaught. They are removing godly men who acted on faith. Men of courage are being portrayed as war criminals. Everyone was a racist. Religion is okay so long as it's not Christianity. True Christianity, not the Joel Osteen type of crap, is now intolerant, racist, xenophobic, homophobic, sexist hate speech. Public education now spends more time indoctrinating our children than teaching them life skills. Little Johnny can barely read and can't balance his checkbook, but he is sure he is privileged, racist, because he was born Caucasian. And little Susie has no idea what gender she is or if she even has a gender, but she believes it is okay to engage in any sex act with anyone, regardless of what gender they are or think they are. Soon, if certain pedophile lawmakers get their way, what age her sex partner is won't matter either, so long as they identify as someone her age. How can this happen in a land where liberty is our birthright? How can a nation with Christian principles written into its founding documents now accept anything but Christianity? The assault began long ago and has grown more successful with each generation. The reason the enemy is being so successful is because we have been steadily trying to drive the Spirit of God from our land. Open prayer and reading from the Bible are no longer allowed in our public schools. Evolution is taught as the process by which life filled our planet. Biblical creation can't even be taught in our public schools as an alternate theory. This is contrary to the scientific method. Not only does this remove God from our moral system, but it reduces the value we place on human life. Without God to answer to, without human life being any more significant than a person's contribution to society, we accept just about any system of moral conduct. For example, a mother may terminate the life of her unborn child solely as a matter of convenience. Since Roe v. Wade made abortion on demand legal, we have snuffed out more lives than is equal to the population of many a nation. Meanwhile, we debate whether murderers should receive the death penalty. How is it that our nation could decline so? Why do we call evil good and good evil? I will tell you, it is because of the failure of the church. The church, especially in the Western world, is clearly in the age of Laodicea. We are not on fire for Christ, but neither are we cold. But as the church at Laodicea, we are lukewarm. We congratulate ourselves for our programs and the support we give missionaries, but we don't dare seek a deeper relationship with Christ, lest he call us to service. We sing about the love of God, but feel little love for church members, much less a world dying in sin. The church claims the moral high ground, but stands for nothing. It has a form of godliness, but denies the power thereof. The church not only fails to stand for righteousness, but it celebrates sin. Many so-called churches now have as their leaders those that are pro-abortion, homosexual, transsexual, adulterers, and the list goes on. The world looks to the church neither for guidance nor love. They see the church as powerless and pay it no respect, much like the United States is now being seen. Even now, God is writing Ichabod, the glory has departed, above the doors of our churches. He is also writing Ichabod over the United States. Our allies are losing confidence in us, even as our enemies cease to fear us. Every day, our economic influence shrinks as we move further and further past that point where we went bankrupt. Corruption is the norm among public officials, and our people are so sinful that the nation which was once known for sending forth missionaries of the gospel now receives missionaries, hoping to turn us again to the Lord. Already, we see the United States becoming less and less free as we try to drive the Spirit of God from our land. The government surveils its citizens in violation of the Constitution. Private property is stolen and small businesses crushed with no recourse. Churches are closed under the excuse of having public health, while bars and strip clubs remain open. People follow like sheep any mandate so long as they receive their stipend from the government. I could go on and on, but I believe I have made my point. Now I must ask you, are you free? How do you know? How much longer do you expect to be free if we continue on this course? I conclude with 2 Chronicles 7:14, which states, "If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land."